like it's going live. Give it a minute here. I have to just wait. The bar, sometimes it gets stuck on YouTube
Sure.
Live. Okay. And I have to mute my audio. Otherwise, I hear my audio back in, which would be crazy. All right. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
All right. Let's jump in. Welcome to Just Curious Media. This is Let's Talk Movies, and I'm Jason Connell. On the show today, I'm joined by Bryan Beasley.
Good to see you again, Jason.
You too, sir. You're back for another episode on Let's Talk Movies. And today, Bryan, it's very fitting.
What is today?
Today is also the movie title. Today is Groundhog Day, February 2nd, 2023.
Booyah.
And we're going to talk about Groundhog Day, the movie from 1993, which makes it 30 years old, Bryan, which makes me feel very old.
Oh, I actually didn't know that. Oh my gosh, it is 30 years old. Oh my God. I saw this in the movie theater. Oh my God.
I know, right? So I'm doing these new episodes. It's like I'm rewatching. I might call it Rewatched. I think that's what I'll call it. But just I'm watching so many movies all the time. It's like, oh, I'll do these shorter episodes, my solo episodes, or I bring on someone who I love having on the show. And when I told you I was going to talk about Groundhog Day, you said, what did you say exactly?
I'm in. It's one of my favorite movies. And
there you go. And I was like, you're my guy.
It deserves to be talked about on Let's Talk Movies. So I'm excited to dive into it.
I agree with you, sir. I truly do. So, and I even have the poster up here. There it is, the famous poster.
And there he is, that stupid alarm clock.
Yeah.
He's stuck in a time loop.
So it is truly Groundhog's Day today. The 137th Groundhog Day. And do you know the verdict today that Puxatawny?
No.
said?
I mean, how unfortunate is that? I didn't even pay attention. Yeah. You actually sent me.
I sent you a link,
and I failed. I failed to even click it. That's how lazy I am. Are we getting 6 more weeks of winter? What did the groundhog? Did he get scared?
6 more weeks of winter. I had a feeling, it's a safer bet. It's a safer bet to not say that. And it's like, hey, wait a second. But to watch the video today, which I hadn't seen in years, and then having just watched the movie yesterday, it's like, wow, the real life version is very theatrical, more so than the movie. They have all these statesmen with the black coat on and the hat, and they all introduce themselves, Bryan. It's like they all have nicknames like Bryan Beasley,
everyone's important.
Frostbit. They all have to be introduced, and then they really have this cane. So it's like, I am watching the movie, and the movie probably took this to the next, level. I'm sure the movie, as big as it was, made, Pennsylvania, this little town, just blow up, because it was like every news truck was there, like in the movie, and people everywhere. And I got to say, he was pretty cute. The groundhog was really cute. I watched the whole thing. But I've never seen it in real life. But this movie really put it on my radar. Sure, we would hear about it as kids, and maybe every once in a while they would show that on like the morning show when you're getting ready for school. But this movie, Groundhog Day, I've always loved it too. I'm a huge fan of Harold Ramis. I'm a huge Bill Murray fan.
Yeah,
mix those two together, and more often than not, you get magic and gold. And so I'm going to just set things up. We're going to show the trailer. And we can talk during the trailer. It's not like, we're at church or somewhere like anything you see, let's talk about, or you're in a library. It's okay. And we're going to pipe it through here though. And then we'll just kind of broad strokes, because I'm excited. It holds up, and I'm happy to talk about it with you. So give me just a moment. This is the technical side of things. I got to cue this up. I'm my own AV guy as well. So.
You're multi-talented is what you are.
Yeah, you gotta be, gotta be. All right, that's connecting, looking good over here. And it should start in just a moment.
Groundhog time.
1,000 people freezing their butts off, waiting to worship a rat.
There he is.
Weatherman Phil Connors is spending the day in Puxatawny, Pennsylvania.
So good.
Phil
Connors talent show.
But Phil's about to find out He's not just stuck in Puxatawny.
Will you be checking out today, Mr. Connors?
Chance of departure today, 100%.
Always the weatherman.
Groundhog Day.
I'm
Picture.
reliving the same day. Bill. Ryerson. Do you ever have deja vu, Mrs. Lancaster?
I don't think so, but I could check with the kitchen.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
Again.
It's so good.
Anxious.
Will you be checking out today, Mr. Connors?
I'd say the chance of departure is
I don't know how many actors could have pulled this off.
But now,
we could do whatever we want.
It's a lot of takes of a lot of
he's
same
discovering
thing
the
over and over
possibilities
again.
Don't you worry about cholesterol.
Andie MacDowell. How lovely.
and living life like there's no tomorrow. Because
Ned Ryerson.
there isn't.
I am an immortal. I have been stabbed, shot, burned,
Yeah.
frozen, electrocuted.
We'll get into that. That's great.
I'm a god.
You're God.
I'm a god. I'm not the god. He's out of his gourd.
Chris Elliott.
That's what his heart wants most.
Are you looking for Phil a date for the weekend?
Means living this day over again till he gets it right.
Believe it or not, I studied 19th century French poetry.
What a waste of time.
What a waste of
Studied
time.
19th century French poetry.
La fille qui j'aimerais.
You speak French.
Bill Murray. Andie MacDowell.
To the groundhog.
I always drink world peace.
Ah.
What should we
Note
drink?
to self.
Note to self, world peace.
I like to say a prayer and drink to world peace. Don't drive angry. Don't drive
Ad
angry.
lib line there. Famous line.
Yep.
He might be okay.
Now I have a problem with that. We'll get into that later.
Life has a funny way of repeating itself.
Oh,
What did you do today?
Oh, same old, same old.
Nice.
also a really good
Completely marketed as another little light, silly Bill Murray movie. And yet
line. Yeah.
this
No,
is
not so
an
much.
extremely deep text. Like this is
Oh.
actually a and has garnered that attention every passing year.
yeah.
That we're talking about this movie 30 years later
30
is
years later.
extraordinarily impressive.
So it all, and also I love this poster. It says, which I don't think you can read it from here. He's having the day of his life over and over. again. Good tag. I like it.
It is good tag.
And I'll give you the synopsis just because we're on it, because those who haven't seen this movie, well, hey, go see it. If you haven't seen it in a while, revisit it like I just did, rewatch it. But the synopsis goes, a narcissist, self-centered weatherman finds himself in a time loop on Groundhog Day, and the day keeps repeating until he gets it right. Now, it's like hell on earth, or it could be amazing just to be stuck in something that there's no consequences.
Listen,
And
it's all of that. It's everything you just said.
It's that. It's exactly that. And I mentioned it earlier, but Harold Ramis, rest in peace. Harold Ramis was always just huge in my life, your life as well. For the
Yeah,
movies he
Ghostbusters.
acted in and directed, and he's great
Stripes.
at both. But Caddyshack, Stripes, he didn't direct Ivan Reitman, but directing National Lampoon's Vacation. No, is that he did direct.
Yeah, he
that.
directed Vacation,
Multiplicity.
yeah.
Sorry, I was like, wait a second. Yeah, Vacation, Multiplicity, analyze this, analyze that, and an actor. In fact, one thing in this movie, it could have used, if anything, some Harold Ramis. Not as Bill Murray, but it could have had him somewhere in some little role, just a little nugget. But, he kind of switched over and was directing a lot more and didn't double dip as much when he was directing movies like Multiplicity and Analyze This and That. But fantastic talent, and him together with Bill Murray. I mean, Bill Murray is just, come on, legendary.
Yeah, totally legendary.
And together they were, like you said, Stripes, Caddyshack, Ghostbusters Part 2, if you cared for that kind of thing. But this movie is really a vehicle for Bill Murray to shine. He's in like every scene. He plays Phil, the angry weatherman, Andie MacDowell, the lovely girl who has his eye, the interest. She's producer on the his news channel. Rita, Chris Elliott, funny little tidbits as Larry, and then of course Ned is fantastic, and he would go on to have a fantastic career. Stephen Tobolowsky,
Tobolowsky, one of the legendary
Brian,
that guys.
Yeah. Oh, there's that guy. You were in that thing.
Yep.
And then Brian Doyle-Murray is one of those statesmen that has
Yep.
Puxatawny Phil, and he plays Buster, also Bill's brother. And we ran into him the day when we were shooting.
Oh, that's right. He was at Dabney Coleman's Star. Yeah.
On Hollywood Boulevard. And I met him, but he saw the camera and he was like, hey, yeah, but he kept a low profile. He didn't want to show up in our documentary. But so we're 1 degree away from this movie.
I forgot about that. That's totally right.
So yeah, again, a chance to shine, and I didn't know what was fact or fiction, right? And there really is a Gobbler's Knob Visitor Center where the movie doesn't take place though, Brian. It's not shot in the real place.
It was in Illinois, right?
Exactly. Real close to Bill Murray's house in Woodstock, Illinois, not Woodstock, New York. So, but they've cheated it. It looks the same. I'm sure the town's very quaint in that way. It's not, Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. But I was just taken back by, there was parallels. I hadn't seen it in a long time. I hadn't revisited this movie in a while. But I had recently watched Scrooge over the holiday because Sophia had never seen it. So we went back and watched Scrooge. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like I'm watching the beginning of Scrooge because they just kind of, tapped into that side of Bill Murray,
they're high concept comedies, comedies. Yeah.
And then the character arc ensue. And so, I don't know what your takeaways when you first saw it in the theater, be like, oh my God, I've seen this note before because Scrooge had come out prior, but it obviously deviates. But I thought, oh my God. In fact, watch it now. It's like, it's a bit over the top on how bad and annoying he is. And I was like, okay, I've just seen this, but the payoff is amazing. And please speak to, because you saw this.
No, I think that you bring up a really great point about Scrooge. I think that they can go hand in hand with each other because it is about these, obviously it's the Dickinson classic Christmas Carol that they're remaking in Scrooge, but it's about these very flawed, egotistical people that go through these very mystical situations and come out the back end better people. Both of those movies resonate. Yes, they are hilarious. Yes, Bill Murray is freaking hilarious in both of those movies, but if it doesn't have that structure around it, that again, going back to that high concept comedy, because they're dramedies. There's drama in all of these. Especially Groundhog Day. There's the whole scene where he tries to save the homeless man's life. And at the end of the day, the nurse is like,
very touching.
Sometimes when it's time to go, it's time to go. Right. And I had read somewhere that this movie is based on the 5 steps of grief. And there's an aspect too of just a person growing up, at first, a toddler's all me, and then and then it's like, oh, I have freedom. He's a teenager. He's like, I can do anything I want. There's no consequences. And then there's the depression, the midlife crisis where he's trying to kill himself over and over and over again. Again, also very dark. There's a whole montage of him trying to murder himself.
The suicide sequence, absolutely.
And you if you put anyone else in that role, I don't know if it works. Bill Murray is so good, is so funny at in Harold Ramis's hands, so well done at knowing just the right moments to have certain tones, right?
I have one comp that could have done it, but it would have had to been years later. But Jim Carrey could have pulled this off in his.
I think so.
Yeah, because he has those notes. He can be dramatic. He's got the over the topness. He has all that Bill Murray has. In a way, they're different, but he could have done it. And if this movie came along 10 years later, it could have easily been him, or even 6 years later. But it should have been Bill Murray, and it was. And him and Ramis together, it is magic. It is gold. And there were scenes when I watch it again, I was like, okay, I want to see this switch. I want to see some moments because it's one note when he's just egotistical and just bad mouthing everybody. I get it, but it doesn't remain funny. I'm ready for that layer to crack, so I can get through. And I don't need to have the end yet, but I want to see change. I want to see the character begin to change, and that could be the darkness. And I'm telling you, that suicide sequence plays very well, and it's comedy. I'm a god, but then I started thinking about this whole situation. Apparently there's 38 days covered. I don't know how accurate that was. I've read that. So he was here for like over a month, but it's the same day. And maybe there was more. Maybe it was.
Oh,
hundreds.
you've heard 38 days. Oh man, we should get into that. So that's the big question: is how long was he there?
Well, and
where did
how
you hear?
accurate is that?
No, it's
Online,
completely. There's no right answer.
Yeah,
There's no right answer.
they probably went through and picked out every reset, and that's 38.
But
right?
where did?
Like,
but no. Oh, so you're saying that he wakes up 38 times? That's what you're saying. But how long? How long do you actually think he was in the time loop? Because that's the question.
I think it's probably more than that. I think he could have been there so long that you get to this stage. I mean, he wants to end some days early because it's like, I cannot deal with this. He walks in front of a car, does a nosedive off of a plateau, because some days he's checking out 10 minutes into the day or whatever. So it could have been hundreds. We'll never know because the writers might never say.
Well, no, they actually. Oh, dude. So here's.
Please.
Well, first of all, there's no right answer. But what is fascinating is I never thought about actually counting how many times he wakes up.
Yeah,
that's
you
interesting.
could do that. Yeah.
But obviously stuff happens that we don't see. We see him take a piano lesson. The next time we see him, he knows. Yeah. So obviously, Ramis, when it first came out, said that he thought that he was in this time loop for 10 years. He said that it takes. It gets much better. He said it takes someone 10 years to become that good. I mean, he learns French. He learns to ice sculpt. He learns the piano. Then later it said that he messed around for so many of those years that he actually thought that this is Ramis speaking, that it would take 3 or 4 decades that he was in this time loop. The writer said the writer said
30 years old now, so he did.
There you go. Maybe he's just getting out. The writer said he was in it for 100 days. But this has become obviously
take it which you want.
Right.
Take it which way.
But there was a website.
38's not enough. I probably would say.
Well, no, it's funny you say. So there's a website called What Culture that did in 2014. That did a deep dive on how long it takes the average human to learn a foreign language, to learn the piano to the physician, and they came up with a very specific 12,395 days, basically 34 years. So, which is right in between Ramis saying 3 or 4 decades.
We'll come back in 4 years and revisit this again.
And we'll see.
The 34-year mark. Well, so yeah, that leads to these scenes. And that's when it started to grip me. Like when he realizes what he's in and he sheds that layer, then it really gets interesting. And you almost have to do that. Like, here's this guy, like you said, high concept comedy. And then, and Scrooge was the same. When I went back and watched that, I saw it in the theater. I'm watching it over the holidays and I'm like, oh yeah, let's get to that next beat. And that's just me. You know, I can only handle that like one note for so long. But the one thing that really hurt me on the suicides, I got to tell you, because I know he knows he's going to die and then come back the next day. But it's that Phil goes over the edge with him. He doesn't put the groundhog out of the trunk. Like, let him scurry off. It really touched me. Like he had to experience that. But
he
didn't think about that. And then there's some great scenes. I mean, comedy gold. Watching Jeopardy is the funniest laugh out loud to me. I mean, please set the stage here because this is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it is a great scene where he's just he's bored out of his mind and he's watched the same episode of Jeopardy 100 times, and so what's so great is that he starts answering the questions. It's all the reactions, and at the end he's answering the questions before they ask the questions.
Yeah. And pouring a drink because he's staying at a hotel. It's more like
a bed and breakfast,
because everybody's like these couples, and so he's watched this Jeopardy specific episode as many times as he wants. And so, he's like lakes and rivers. He's in that category. And he's just, they're barely saying the question or they're saying the answer. And then you say saying the question, saying the answer. He's like Mexico, Finger Lakes, Titicaca, the Rhone. And he says it, like you said, as he gets on, he's like pouring a drink and they're like, this guy's incredible. And they all applaud him. It's very cute. Very
it really is great.
Hilarious. It always makes me laugh. It's Bill Murray at his finest.
Yes. The dryness, the comebacks, I mean, he's really, it's a lot of room for him to do really fantastic comedy. And then it
Yes.
just going for the Ned Ryerson stuff is,
Oh my
you know,
gosh.
my favorite moment is when he,
What are you doing?
he
Yeah.
comes up to him and he hugs him, but he hugs him
Yeah.
really long. And he's like,
Yeah,
What
it
are you-
lingers. I
what
know.
are you doing today? Just like, tell me you
Yeah.
can get out of work. And we just,
Yeah.
and he's like, oh,
I have missed you
I
so
have
much. And
missed
that's like, hey, he's out. That's what he knew that would repel him.
so good.
It is great. Well, you have a try. It's a chance to try all your stuff, you know, with no consequences. You know, and if he likes a girl, he could say anything and then get what works. And
He
all
gets
that is in
engaged.
play.
Yep. He robs a
Any-
bank.
He robs a bank.
Yep.
And then when it really starts to pivot, or things you know in him, is when he really starts to listen and learn about others. And that does, you know, skipping ahead, even before he gets the perfect day right, he hits a few good days where it doesn't end how he wants and it gets repeated. But when Andie MacDowell is asking him who all he knows in this little diner, the things that he picked up on over the however long he was there. But I love it because he has got outside of his own bubble and really started learning little tidbits about everybody and caring. And like you said earlier, caring for the old man who's on his last leg and figures, oh, I'll just save him. And knowing even when you save him, you're not going to save him. This is his time. And that's when it starts to be, you know, things have pivoted. His moral compass is different. And that sucks me in. And of course you get this great's an undersell. Incredible song by Ray Charles throughout the movie. You Don't Know Me. It's that beautiful track. And it's not just him and MacDowell. It's just him changing and a perfect song, You Don't Know Me, because she thinks she knows him and he has just changed immensely in these however long it's been. I can't say 38 days now. You've sold me on other ideas. But that's the beauty of the movie. And yes, we all want a happy ending. And yes, I'll save what happens for you to talk about. But that's, to me, what got its hooks in me. And I realized, wow, this is still a very effective movie.
Totally.
And I enjoyed it immensely. Like that's why I wanted to come on and talk about it. And it just so happened to be Groundhog Day, which makes it all the more fitting.
Totally. And I mean, the spirituality of the film is what's made it last. I mean, there are dissertations written about this movie. Like they teach this movie in certain classes. And I remember I saw this interview with Ramis, and he was taken aback by how it doesn't matter what religion you are or where you find your spirituality, you can find it in this film. Like, you know, the Buddhists, I guess he'd gotten letters from Buddhists saying like they understood the film because like he gains enlightenment at the end, and that's how he gets out of this. Or obviously the Catholics see this as purgatory, and it's not until he completely gives himself over and as you said, he lives the perfect day. What is the perfect day? The perfect day is him changing the tire for the old lady, is catching the kid, he's falling out of the tree. It's the Rotary Club, like getting the his brother, his real brother in real life is choking on a piece of steak. Get sharper teeth if you're going to eat steak. It's all of that. And he's not even trying to impress her. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what she falls in love with at the end, is because he isn't chasing her. Like he's exactly who this new version of himself is. And you can definitely see how 30 years later, we're still talking about this film and how it completely relates. And you can watch it today, and its meanings and themes are matter of fact, I read something not too long ago that they consider this the perfect pandemic movie. So like at the end of 2020, someone was like, it's Groundhog Day because that's what we were all living. We were living the same day over and over
I heard
again.
it referenced a lot too, but not necessarily referenced to go watch, but we're all living. Yeah. Every day is the same. Like, oh my God. Dun, 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 dun. And we should speak to that. That's a great moment in the movie. We're hearing the Sonny and Cher track that comes on, right? On the, well, no, I'm sorry. I'm doing that. That's what they're doing when he gets to the Gobbler's Hill. It's the Sonny and Cher track. And what is it again?
I got you, babe. You know, and it starts with the line like, put your tiny little hand in mine, which is actually, the film opens with his hand over the green screen doing the weatherman, you know, kind of like move. And if you listen to where the lyrics are, it's literally, the song is telling him what he needs to do. He needs to, go out and help these other people, or like, there's no mountain we can't climb, I think is the next verse, basically saying teamwork with the two of them. So it's all, again, to Harold Ramis and the writer whose name escapes me right now. Every single choice was completely thought through. Like every single thing that you see or hear is all part of it. Matter of fact, there's Danny Rubin, Danny Rubin, Danny Rubin, and this was his big break. And he literally like almost basically like invented this time warp thing, which now there's been like hundreds of movies and hundreds of series that have like taken this. But like, what's so great is like, when he comes out for the very first day that he's repeating, and he comes out and there's a lady that's like, "Oh, happy Groundhog Day." And he's like, "Didn't we?" He's confused. It's like, that's the music teacher that later we see him, he pays. If you pay attention, this little community, like they all played, and we get different, everyone has their own character, and they're having their own aspects of their own day, and it was really well done on how they do that. Matter of fact, if you just watch the movie and watch the people in the background, they're all there. You see them doing different things and living their days.
One of them is the film debut of Michael Shannon.
That's correct.
Marrying the
WrestleMania.
And that's later because he picked up on that, but they're at the diner kind of, she's having second, thoughts about things.
That's right. About their marriage. That's right.
So it's like he had enough time to finally get outside of his sphere and start focusing on like, okay, that's interesting. Like he's making a documentary, or like kind of like the Truman Show in reverse. And so he's watching all of them. Was Truman Show? Yeah, there's a nice little comparison there. I watched that recently too, but this just hits higher notes, just mortality and just what he went through this whole thing. Like, I'm stuck here. Woe's me. To how can I benefit from this? What could I do to make this more enjoyable? And then when he gets all the right things in order, everything set up the right way, he gets what he wants.
Well, it's like you said, a living hell or it's heaven. I mean, he's a slave to the time warp at the beginning, and at the end, he's the master of the time warp. You know what I'm saying?
Master. And I love the ending, or near the end, because you do believe he's still after the perfect day, which is what he's after, and the perfect night with the girl and just being together, and there's a real kinship. They cue the song again. And we're all led to believe what?
That he didn't get out.
He's still there. But then how do we know?
She reaches over.
It's a great reveal.
Yeah, she reaches over and hits that damn alarm clock. And he's shocked.
Like the DJ's like,
gotcha.
They queued it up for fun, but it's like, that was it. They probably thought long and hard. How are we going to do that? Bringing the song back, having her go over him, and him realizing, oh my God. And he's changed. This isn't some facade, which is why it would have to be a while. This is real change. It's not like,
it is.
I did that. And if it was 5 days in, he's going to fall back into the tracks that he built in his life all along. He's that guy, but he's a different guy, more enjoyable guy. Not just about the girl. He's just happier in life. And it is a very,
he's more fulfilled. He's more fulfilled.
The way Mad Men ends, and I don't know if you're a Mad Men guy.
Ding.
He's like, aware, Zen. And so, I plan to revisit this more often because it had been a good while, and just to see how strong of a movie it was. There may not be a better Ramis and Murray together as far as longevity, although it's hard to say. Caddyshack is up there. But just from all the, like you said, spiritual levels and there's courses about it and teachings and philosophies, but I highly recommend.
It's a great movie.
That
last scene, apparently, like they did 22 takes of that because they didn't Ramis, and he just so many different tones. They wanted to get all the tones, and they were really questioning whether they should have consummated their relationship the night before. And so I mean,
held back.
I know they did it right. They did it right.
They did it right.
Because, and you know, she has that little line of like, oh, why weren't you frisky like this last night?
Yeah.
But I guess he went around and was asking all the crew, like, should they have slept together? Like,
Yeah.
But they made the right choice. But I think it's, I have heard stories too, that this movie was kind of found in the edit. And so it doesn't surprise me. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they would have shot this just all these different ways to try to make sure that when they got to where they were going, that they had it just, and they did. It's pitch perfect. That the tone of the last one's pitch perfect.
And
also, you mentioned,
well, the editing, we have to commend it. It is incredibly well put together, and you would have to find this movie.
And it's tight.
It is tight, man. Yes, please continue.
No, I was just going to say, you mentioned Caddyshack. I mean, has there ever been an actor in an animal comedy duo than Bill Murray and the Groundhog? I mean, there's two movies with going at it.
He's fighting the gopher and not fighting the groundhog, but they have scenes. In fact, I read that he was bitten a couple times. Pretty bad.
He had to get rabies shots.
A lot of that was it truly happened. So
he was probably like, use the puppet.
Ad-libbed. It was ad-libbed when the groundhog was kind of scurrying around the steering wheel. So, but I got to say, the groundhog was not killed in that one scene. It was not.
That's correct. That's correct. Neither was Bill Murray. They're both alive and well.
Neither was Bill Murray.
Maybe 30 years later, the groundhog is expired. But yeah.
So, well, thanks for coming and joining me on this journey today.
My pleasure.
Very fitting. 30 years later, Groundhog Day, 6 more weeks of winter. And so without further ado, please enjoy
Groundhog Day.
So thank you so much for listening. And please be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Movies podcast and the Let's Talk Movies YouTube live channel. You can also really help us by giving the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast. And for all you listeners that enjoy sharing your thoughts, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcast, send us a direct message, or post a comment on any Let's Talk Movies social media platform. We also highly recommend checking out our other podcast and visiting justcuriousmedia.com.